What is up, y'all? Welcome back. The Lord's Caliber testing continues. 45 ACP DoubleTap ammunition, 185 grain controlled expansion. This is Ammo Test Series number 3. We just had Ammo Test Series number 2, where we tried the 230 grain version of this ammunition. It performed pretty darn well. We're interested to see how the 185 grain version does. It's a little windy out here today. Estimated to be going 1,200 feet per second out of a 5-inch barrel. Wowza, that should do pretty good. That's a deep, cavernous hollow point right there that I'm sure is going to expand very well. And we're going to cover that 5-inch barrel length in testing, but we're also going to get velocity from another one. We'll be using 2 different firearms today. 2 totally different firearms to keep it nice and interesting. This is different than what we used in the last test in the series, but that's all right. I think this is a little bit better of a representation of different type of guns. We have a Sig Sauer 1911X. That's all tacked out and all that cool stuff with the red dot. And then we have an XDM Elite 3.8 inch that has iron sights, U-notch iron sights. So 5-inch barrel, 3.8-inch barrel, red dot, iron sights. We're going to be tracking those with a Garmin, and we're going to go through the Caldwell, landing on these B8 targets, hopefully somewhere near that X. Then we're going to go into a 16-inch 10% clear ballistics gel block, backed up by a 20-inch clear ballistics gel block. Not sure if we'll get through it, but we always put it there just in case. When we shoot paper, we'll be 21 feet off the target. When we shoot gel, we'll be 15 feet off the target. This is practical accuracy, so no bench rest or bags. And for our gel testing, we don't have any clothing in front of anything right now because this is a baseline test. You have to start somewhere. We can always add that later. Testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, first up is XDM Elite 3.8 inch. This gun usually handles its own. These 3.8 inch XDMs of all different calibers, they seem to hold their own with velocity pretty well. So I'm expecting good numbers regardless of the shorter barrel. We have a U-notch sight with the white back U and a fiber optic front dot red sight. I don't know if I said that properly, but you get the picture. That front dot sight pretty much looks like a big bright red dot out there from an optic, like an electro optic, but we have an 1122.7 back here, 1116 up there. Good velocity, feels a little stout in the hand. This gun always feels a little stout in the hand. It's just the way it's built. Shot a little bit high to the right. I'll shut up and just ramble the rest of them off real quick for you. Ooh, it does definitely feel stout. I actually hit the X-ring where I was supposed to that time. 1104 out there, 1105 back here. Improved my grip a little, stayed in about the same zone. 1080 and 1079. I'm glad the chronographs are getting along. Got a little bit high and to the right up there. 1082 and 1077.9. And got there with the first grouping. We had 1078 and 1075.1. Let's go take a look. I did a little tiny bit of stringing here, but not a bad group overall. That's a little bit more than an inch, I would say. There's my pinky next to it. This could have been me healing the gun up just a hair. I might have done that. I'm not sure. I can probably see it on slow motion, but I'd say overall, it definitely passes the palm test. It passes the no-fail black zone test. It's pretty darn good. That grouping right there would have fit in the 10 ring. I'll say it gets a pass. This gun is never exactly point of aim, point of impact for me. I think it tends to shoot high right a little bit. So that has nothing to do with the ammo. That is the gun. Let's move on to the 1911. All right, 1911 with a 5-inch barrel. I have the 32 MOA circle with a 2-inch or the 2 MOA dot in the middle. Very nice optic. Let's see what we can do here. Still feels pretty stout out of this gun. I shot a little bit low to the left. 1144.2, 1144 out there. Pretty much a hole in hole, so that's where this gun is grouping with this ammunition. In my opinion, 1157.7, 1151 out there. Whew, that does definitely feel stout in the hand. You feel it actually through the safety, the thumb safety. 1134.3 and 1136. 1163.2 and 1161 out there. We do have a malfunction though. This one's a little bit of an odd one. We did have some malfunctions with the other ammunition, the other version of this, the heavier grain weight. We attributed that to the shock buff that was in there that was getting really torn up. But now this one is kind of weird. This cartridge did not fully go into battery, but it is also a little bit askew. So I'm assuming that's the one that wants to go in there, not the one that ejected. I'm going to do what we would typically do if we were going to do really quick mitigation, and that would be a tap, and that would have taken care of it. As long as that was the live one, and yes, that is the live one. So let's continue, but something to keep in mind, you want to always test defensive ammunition. Even if you like what it looks like in this video and you like what you shot one box of it, you got to run it through your mags, you got to run it through your gun, and you just got to make sure it can function a lot of rounds consecutively before you can trust it. All right, last one in this string. And right there with the rest of them, 1151.0, 1148. We had a lockback. And another thing I will say about these ammunitions that are a little bit more stout, you definitely want to have a thumb safety that you can ride. Some people shoot 1911s differently, and some people get their finger down here a little bit under the safety. This is not one of those ammunitions you want to do that with. We have to be riding the thumb safety, let me say it, but we have to be riding the thumb safety properly. Otherwise, this is one of those type of ammunitions that will make you turn that safety on by accident under recoil. The gun goes off, your thumb goes up. Well, let me do that the right way. Well, the wrong way, the right way. So the gun goes off, your thumb goes up, it's on safe, you don't realize it, you try to take another shot, you got a dead trigger. Definitely, with these hotter ammunitions, if you're running 1911s, ride that safety down so that doesn't happen. We always try to teach you here on the Turkey's Opinion. Now, let's go take a look. Different gun, different form of stringing, could be ammunition, could be me, could be a lot of different things, but not bad. Again, we're within a 1.5, 2 inch, 1 3/4 size group. We're in the X ring though. If we were, or X circle, if we were to just move that up there, we would have gone ahead and stayed within that parameter. I cannot talk this week, this day, this month, anything. I don't know what's wrong with me. Too much lead poisoning, but good enough groups on both of these guns. I will take it every day. Just remember, a little stout in the hand. This is not baby sauce 45 ACP. Double tap. They did not skimp on the powder today. All right, 3.8 inch is up first. I'm going to try to do this in a way that we can intelligently see through this block that already has multiple strikes. We got to try to use the block the most we can. Hopefully that's good. 1086 over here and 1097 down there. Let's go take a look at the block. Snuck in a good impact right there where we needed to. And we have a very nice wound channel again. Much like the 230 grain round, this one didn't go as deep, but it's traveling a little bit faster, so it opens up possibly a little bit bigger and a little bit more violently quicker, slowing it down. That's a total penetration of at least 12 inches bouncing back, but that main entrance and then pretty much the main body of the wound channel is very consistent, very nice. You see it tapers down right there just a little bit before it comes to a stop. But I'll tell you what, that looks like one honker of a bullet staring at us, or staring away from us, actually. I think those pedals are all the way pulled back. I bet you that thing's going to measure out pretty good. It's, yeah, that's a big old 45 projectile. You can never beat that. 45's got one thing on its size, and that is size of the wound channel. Very nice. Let's see if we can see it from the top. Oh, yeah, that's very nice. Very consistent. About what you'd expect out of a nice hollow point. But this thing's not shedding pieces and parts or anything. It's staying together. It's going to have nice mass at the end. I can tell you it blossomed out beautifully, and it's going to be huge. Let's go ahead and shoot the one out of the 1911 and see if it does anything different. All right, remember, 1086 and 1097 are the velocities to beat with the 1911. I'm sure we will. I'm going to try to put this stuff exactly where it needs to go, so I have to do a tiny bit of Kentucky windage, but let me double check. That might be almost perfect. 1007.7 and 1121 down, or wait, no, 1107.7 and 1021. We definitely beat the other one. All right, we're a little bit close with these two. This is the one we just shot here up top, but it's going to work. All right, so we have a total penetration of 13.5 inches at least, but we're bounced back to 12.5. It did pretty much the same thing that the one underneath it did. It's got a nice uniformity to it the whole way. It seemed to get in there just a fraction of an inch more before it started expanding, but not anything much more dramatic. It expanded nicely. It didn't come apart. It's opened up, pedaled beautifully. I can see here. It's a little bit close to those other wounds in that block. I understand, but I think you get the picture. I'm going to tilt it for camera guy, and we're going to take a look from the top. As you can see, they're overlapping each other, but they're very much the same thing. It's actually a good thing the way they're overlapping, because you can definitely see side by side, they pretty much did the same thing. One had a little bit more of an energy dump, of course, and one made it a little bit deeper. At least deeper as in didn't bounce back as far, or possibly just deeper. We'll see what they measure out like. All right, this is a little bit odd. We got them dug out, and camera guy and I were just discussing. This is a little bit opposite of what usually happens. This is the 3.8-inch XDM Elite. This here is the 1911. Shed a few petals here as we were getting it out, but what's a little bit odd is if you look at the center part of these projectiles, this one definitely did a little bit more mushrooming. It seemed to have hit a little bit harder. We know that when they hit a little bit harder, they seem to have that mushrooming effect, and they have a shallower cavity. This one has the deeper cavity. It would look like they should be swapped. Another thing is, you see the petals. I think at least these petals seem to be curled back just a hair more than this one does out of the 1911. So a little bit odd, but we're definitely sure. We double checked, and that's just the way it is. So let's go ahead and flip them over. You'll see that they are curled back big time. They kind of remind me of a Talon, but not bonded like a Talon is. So that is actually very uniform out of this one, the 1911, and that one I would say too. So very, very good. Even though this one broke off a few pieces of copper, no big deal. I'd say those things expanded pretty uniform. Pretty good chunk right here left. They're going to weigh very nicely. All right, so the XDM with the 3.8-inch barrel produced a 184.6.5, so it could be completely factory weight, or it might have lost just a tiny little fraction. We get that one off of there, and then I'm going to include the copper petals because I pretty much broke them off when I was digging them out. The one that came out of the 1911 is 184.2, so probably, again, factory, maybe lost a tiny little piece in there somewhere. Let's measure the width. The biggest width I can get out of the one that came out of the XDM 3.8-inch would be 0.80 or 0.8 of an inch. And out of the 1911, we have 0.8 inches, so 0.8 of an inch. So I always like to point this out. I'm a big fan of when projectiles will perform similarly at different barrel lengths. So we have the same projectile going out of two totally different barrel lengths, two totally different guns, but performing relatively similar. I like the compatibility between the two, or interchangeability, whatever you want to call it. It's nice to have multiple firearms that can accept the same ammunition. And what I mean by that is, of course, it'll accept it usually, but is it a good choice? Are the ballistics proper? And that's why we do this awesome testing for you here on the Turkey's Opinion, and you should subscribe. So, pretty good consistent stuff in my opinion. Pretty hot stuff actually though, so make sure you're ready for it. It's not your typical 45 for sure. It's riding that like plus P line as far as the way it feels. I'm not sure of the actual pressure, but pretty hot stuff in my opinion. Take that information, use it as you see fit. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next one, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Definitely shoot some 45 ACP. It's cool stuff.